Hello and welcome to the November 2014 webinar for retirementhomes.com. My name is Robert Walker, and it is my pleasure today to introduce Irving Stackpole of Stackpole & Associates. Today, Irving's presentation, Not Your Mama's Retirement Home, will discuss some of the demographic trends in senior living across North America, and we'll explain how, despite market share, how you can use that current data to increase your market share despite declining numbers. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. To raise a question, raise your hand in the toolbar to the right, and time permitting, your question will be answered. Now please welcome Irving.
Well, good morning, or should I say good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to click to show my screen. I hope and trust you all can see the opening slide. Nope, having a technical difficulty here. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the environment for long-term care, and in particular age-qualified seniors housing, congregate care of all kinds, skilled nursing, assisted living, and independent living. The title of this is Not Your Mama's Retirement Home, Why Kroger's Has Better Technology Than You Do, and Why It Matters. The purpose here is to talk about the demographic facts and then to describe some of the ways that providers and marketers can respond most effectively to these changes. I first of all want to thank retirementhomes.com and Robert Walker in particular for sponsoring this presentation, and for all of you for joining us. And I'd like to try to move into the first slide to talk about why occupancy is so poor. So that's really the question. I see, I talk with individuals all over the United States and in other countries as well, talking about the challenges of occupancy and utilization in age-qualified services. That includes all of the congregate care services as well as medical equipment and hospitals, as well as home-based care. So the issues are why are the occupancies so poor?
Irving.
Yes.
Hi, Troy. Hi, everybody. Irving, maybe just try to click the slides and move from there, just so we can see your.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Robert.
All righty.
So thank you all for your patience. Of course, you might have all unplugged in the interim, but thank you for hanging on. So what should be done, and why are occupancies so poor? The important thing we're going to focus on here is increasing productivity and efficiency. It only stands to reason that in a declining market, one of the proper responses is to increase your productivity and efficiency. In other seminars here and elsewhere, I've also reviewed the best way to defend, protect, and fortify your existing market share, which is by managing to loyalty rather than managing to satisfaction, as well as the challenge to innovate in the face of this declining market and to differentiate. And interestingly, increasing productivity and efficiency are also very effective ways to differentiate your service from the competitor's service. So I'd like to take on a bit of a mythbuster role and suggest that these three myths are at large in our culture. First of all, that the aging population is growing, and while that's true in some regards, it is absolutely not true in an important regard, and we'll talk about that. That the rising tide, that is to say the growth in the aged population, floats all boats, and that the people always get sick. So healthcare is a very safe bet, and if you need a shelter from the storm, so to speak, you can invest in and become involved in healthcare, because healthcare businesses are immune to changes in the general economy and other circumstances. We're going to talk about that. So the first thing I want to say categorically is that occupancies are poor because the age-qualified markets in the United States, Canada, Western Europe, they are all declining. And I'm going to show you detail, well not detail, but I'm going to show you why that is and the data that you can all access on your own. And by the way, you can all put questions into the question bar, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible at the end of the presentation. And also, we will be hosting the slides that you can access, which includes a bibliography. So any of the materials that I reference here are included in the bibliography. So first of all, the first myth I want to bust is about the size of the aging market. Occupancies are poor because the age-qualified markets are declining. Also, occupancies are poor because those stagnant and or declining numbers of age-qualified individuals have more choices. There are more options now than before. You all know what they are: home community-based services, assisted living, or skilled nursing that's positioning itself to take advantage of subtle differences in the needs of individuals in their local marketplace areas, and other options and choices. There is a negative perception, which also mitigates against the age-qualified population accepting our solution. Who wants to go to a nursing home? It's a dominant negative concept in the cultures. The economy also has a significant part to play in this. During the most recent recession, there was a very elegant study done by McKinsey that clearly showed that the economy had a very negative effect on the population consuming medical services and hospital services in particular. The other reason occupancies are poor is because of what I'm referring to as intermediaries. And these are Medicare, managed care organizations, the PPOs, the health systems that are working and functioning within your environments, including whatever value-based payment systems are being developed or have been developed in your marketplace area. So this market for congregate care is highly intermediated, and the role of the payment sources and the regulator can't be overstated. Finally, I want to point out that I mentioned in the title that Kroger's has better technology than we do. Kroger's doesn't work in such an intermediated environment as we do. They aren't subject to the type of variation in payment. They don't have certain customers that come in and pay Medicaid rates and other customers that come in and pay managed care rates. Their rates are pretty much published, and the point I wish to make is that they operate on very, very narrow margins. And one of the ways that Kroger's competes with Stop and Shop, which competes with Shaw's, is based on technology. And we'll talk further about that as we move along. Here's an example of a graph that shows a myth about population. The green line, as you see here, the hockey stick line, shows the age 85 and up population. But if you look more carefully, you'll see that it's describing the percentage of change. The percentage of change, not the raw number, but the percentage of change. If you look at the actual numbers, you can see that the reason folks say that the aged population is growing is because that blue line in this current graph shows the age 65 population and over, which is growing quite dramatically. I'm in that curve, so I understand there are a lot of leading-edge baby boomers who are driving that curve in an upward trend. However, the 85 cohort, the 85-plus cohort, is relatively small, and as you can see from the intersecting lines here, I've drawn the intersection, and that other data shows that approximately 15% of that cohort at any given point in time are utilizing what's referred to affectionately as institutional care, even though none of us wants to think of ourselves as institutions. That's one of the terms in research that's widely used. About 15% of that age cohort is accessing institutional care, and that's about 960,000, or roughly stated, 1 million people. And that's just about what the supply is, and that explains why there's been no additional supply added in many marketplace areas. And in those marketplace areas where supply has been added, what they're doing is the new inventory is eating other people's lunch, because you can't increase supply in flat or stagnant demand without diluting everyone's market share. So these are some of the facts, some of the demographic facts in the marketplace, and some of the myths that are operating. And we see this day to day, moment to moment. People can't seem to grasp that this upward curve of 85 plus is not equal to this very flat number of 85 plus in the population. The reason this is important is that the average age of relocation to an assisted living residence in the United States is 86.4 years of age. That's according to NIC, which did a federally funded study of this matter, I think in 2012, 2013. And the average age of relocation, and this is averages in the United States, to skilled nursing centers and SNF is over 87. So the size of the 85 plus cohort represents, for most of us, for most purposes, the size of our market. And this is reflected, this stagnant or declining market of 85 plus individuals is reflected in lots of data. This is an example of that. It shows the data from CMS around Medicare and Medicaid occupancy in skilled nursing centers, Medicaid in particular. And this is data from the American Healthcare Association, the for-profit side, which shows that the occupancy rate is down to 85.6%. Now, I don't know what's happening in your marketplace area. I'm up here in the Northeast, and I can tell you that nursing centers are either closing or taking beds offline, or conducting rebuilding, refurbishments in particular wings to make their bed supply more suitable to a younger cohort for rehabilitation purposes, post-arthroplasty, hip replacement, knee replacement, etc. And if that inventory hadn't been taken offline, or those beds hadn't been consolidated, the occupancy would be significantly worse. My rough back-of-the-envelope calculations are that had not the number of beds been taken offline, occupancy overall would be down to just a smidge over 80%, which is getting frighteningly close to break-even or even below break-even for most nursing centers. This is not the skilled nursing, congregate care in the long-term settings are not immune. This is a rough depiction of occupancy rates in hospitals. This too is going down with the possible exception of academic medical centers, and Milliman Economics Research Institute has also showed that occupancy rates and admission rates are going down across the board. And as I spoke about in the beginning, there have been some very elegant studies done to show that the economy has had a significant depressive effect on the utilization of healthcare services overall. So that leaves us with a fundamental question. So why are occupancies declining? And is marketing really that bad? Or is sales that bad? I was on a platform with a very distinguished group of speakers at the Assisted Living Federation of America conference, and three of them argued, quite the contrary to my position, that it was marketing and sales. Well, frankly, I don't think that marketing and sales in the sector is that bad. I think the core of the issue, here's a poor fellow who was a little off budget, and he took the brunt of the disappointment. The fundamental issue is that there were not enough live births in the period between 1925 and 1935 to support the inventory that had been built up to serve the population that was born before 1925. So this is a chart of live births in the United States from 1910 to 2010, and as you can see here, there's a significant trough or a dip. I've called this the demographic dip or the birth dearth between 1925 and 1935. And why this is significant, of course, is because if you were born in 1928, you'd be 85 years of age in 2014. And as you can see, we are just then at the beginning of the slide into this demographic dip. In 2017, those who are 85 will have been born in 1931, and while you see that there's a little uptick there, there's further to go. And then if you were in 2020, we reached the bottom or the nadir of that dip. Those who were born in 1934 will then be 85 years of age in 2020. So you can see why this is of importance to the population, to operators, and especially to marketing and sales professionals who are doing very intelligent, very thoughtful, very effective things in the marketplace generating leads, but you simply cannot compensate for this rate of birth decline. The other factor that I mentioned, which explains why occupancies are so poor, is the negativity that exists in the culture at large. And while there are definitely things we can do about occupancy and responding to a declining population, this is actually a very significant challenge. Our centers are not seen as positive places. They are not thought of as community-wide resources to help the community and help the members in the community deal with the challenges that they're facing, including aging parents, including greater penetration, greater incidence of Alzheimer's and related disorders. They're seen as prisons, awful places, just the F word, as I like to call it. The word facility is only used with our types of congregate care centers, as well as prisons and bathrooms. And that's a pretty negative connotation, negative association. The exact word is a metaphor. And there is a rather deep metaphor of negativity about the services that we provide in the sector. This is a recent copy of AARP bulletin, and those of you who are of a certain age like me will be receiving this in a recent issue, March 2014. Suggested goodbye nursing home. New technology lets you stay put. So there are more and more options available. Technology is coming to bear to make those options more efficient and more effective and more attractive. And my argument is that we should be doing the same thing within the congregate care setting. So how do we respond to a declining market? Well, best-in-class business case studies show us that there are basically 4 steps that operators, owners, managers, marketing professionals can and should take in the face of a declining market. First is to defend, protect, and fortify the market share that you have. In a declining market, it stands to reason that it's more difficult to secure additional market share, so it's tremendously important to keep and hold the market share that you have. The advantage in our marketplace, in our markets, and in most of our marketplace areas, is that we generally receive referrals from the same sources over and over again. So we have an opportunity to build and maintain loyal relationships with those sources. And that's why it's tremendously important to manage toward loyalty as opposed to satisfaction. And there are specific steps to doing that We covered those in the last webinar, and I'd be happy to share those with any of you if you simply ask. The one we want to focus on today is about increasing productivity and efficiency. This has not been widely deployed in our sector, much to the detriment of many operators who find themselves operating with very high staffing costs and questionable ability to track or measure the effectiveness or the efficiency of that staffing resource. And final two are to innovate and to differentiate, and none of these are, of course, exclusive of the others, but should be covered separately. So in terms of efficiency, productivity and efficiency within congregate care units, our employees, our staff, our associates, whatever term you choose to use, they are absolutely critical because they produce the patient-family experience within our institutions. The staff are the ones who produce quality and value. Quality and value are the factors that enter into your negotiations with upstream referral sources, which allow you to differentiate yourselves from the competition and to successfully compete in your marketplace areas. Those of you who are of a certain age will remember the Family Circus, and this is a cartoon from the Family Circus called Billy's Trip Home, and I would submit to you that Billy was the youngest, the 6-year-old who went off to kindergarten and came home. I would submit to you that this is the way that most staffing patterns look when we do drawings of their movements within the building. This hasn't changed significantly in the last 20 or 30 or 40 years. Staff are still walking up and down halls, into rooms, returning back to the storage closet to find the missing washcloth, looking around, going up to the nurse's station, asking the nurse in charge if patient Stackpole has received his or her medication because she's complaining of pain. This is just the way staffing looks, and this is, I would submit to you, entertaining but not at all efficient. So productivity and efficiency are terms used in the economic environments, but I would insist they must be used in our environment for those congregate care providers who wish to succeed in the next 5 to 7 years. Basically, productivity is the output you receive for the inputs. The inputs are the labor costs and the efforts of your staff. Productivity is not equal to staff reductions. Most people, when they hear about productivity in nursing centers, they think it's an omen or a harbinger of massive layoffs. Nothing could be further from the truth. Another example in simple efficiency is your purchase decision cycle time. How long does it take your organization from the point of expression of interest by a prospect or a suspect, whatever you call your not yet customers, how long does it take to migrate that person along in the intake cycle, the onboarding cycle, the community outreach cycle, whatever you call that sales cycle? How long does it take to move that person along? Speed, efficiency, and effectiveness are critical at that juncture. I refer to pull-through. Pull-through has to do with how you engage case managers, consumers, doctors, the actors in your environment. How do you engage them in your productivity and efficiency improvement models? The case managers at the discharge planners at the hospitals that are referring to your skilled nursing center, they want an efficient, effective relationship. The individuals at the home health agencies that are putting the assisted living residents on alert that there's an individual who may be a good candidate, that family member, that family group, that individual consumer, they also want to be certain that the transaction will be efficient and the onboarding process thoughtful, patient, but quite efficient and effective. There are actually 3 levels of efficiency my wife continues to tell me that statistics and economics can clear out a room faster than a shark can clear a swimming pool. But I think for the sake of this conversation, we need to understand the different levels of these terms so that we can approach our operations and target the correct changes that will indeed improve efficiency, improve productivity, and help to differentiate our operation. The first level of efficiency is technical efficiency, and that just means that there's maximum improvement for the resources that have been invested. So how much healthier do your rehabilitation patients become because of the efforts of your rehabilitation and nursing team? So in that environment, there can be a tremendous amount of resources brought to bear, and many people may benefit enormously, but others may not. Productive efficiency refers to the best health outcome for given costs, for the same costs, or a reduction in cost for the same outcome. This is very typically the type of efficiency to which we refer when we're talking about continuous quality improvement and we're attempting to improve the outcome and keep the costs the same, or even to improve the cost, reduce the resources being invested to produce a certain set of outcomes. Allocative efficiency refers to the overall outcomes of initiatives, health and well-being initiatives for the community at large. And this becomes very interesting when you look at the issues of value-based payment models, often referred to in our marketplace areas as accountable care organizations, as an example of value-based payment initiatives. They're also referred to as Medicare shared savings plans, and they've got other labels. But the idea is that you look at the resources being consumed across an entire episode of care in order to better manage population health. So in your community, how effective are the transitions of care? Are they properly managing the outcomes for that community as a whole? So those are all three different types of efficiency that can be targeted by your congregate care operation. Any three of those can have significant benefits. I would submit to you that productive efficiency and allocative efficiency are indeed the target goals towards which we should be heading, in part because allocative efficiency is the goal of value-based payment models, which are all the buzz. We can innovate by adding efficiency through post-acute care transitions. Many of you have heard about these. Many of you may be quite experienced with these. With regards to hospitals, resident and family satisfaction data is an example of innovation through efficiency addition, transactional efficiency, incorporating pharmacy and rehabilitation in the post-acute care transitions, and home and community-based services. How are they being integrated into a model that improves the allocated efficiency in your marketplace area? This, I think, is a very interesting survey. It's from 2011, published in 2012, from the Health Finance Management Association. They do a survey of hospitals and physicians every other year. I believe it's every other year. And in this survey question, the respondents were asked, how would you describe your organization's experience in the following? Everything from redesigning a departmental process at one side to designing and implementing population health programs, which steps clearly out of the hospital domain, so to speak, and into the community and integrates these other providers. And as you can see, that redesigning end-to-end care processes within the hospital and then executing cross-continuum initiatives, this goes way down, some experience to no experience. I offer this to you because this is actually very good news. This is an opportunity for post-acute care or congregate care providers to differentiate themselves within your marketplace area by going to the hospital systems, by going to the dominant physician practices in the region, by identifying those organizations and groups that are attempting to develop value-based payment models, value-based payment systems, by going to them and offering your insight into managing the post-acute, or actually I think the technical term, although nobody uses it, is peri-acute, both before and after, but the services being provided around the acute care setting. And we are in an excellent position to assist in that regard. And there's apparently not only a demand, a need, but there's a self-reported acknowledgement that they're not very good at it. So that's an opportunity. I see that as an opportunity for us. The facts of life are quite unmovable, I would say. The age-qualified market is shrinking. Age-qualified markets will continue to shrink for the next 5 to 7 years. We will continue to experience pressure on payments. That is to say, we're going to be asked to do more, and payments will be continue to be restricted. And we have yet to see the re-implementation, although it's blooming, the re-implementation of Medicaid managed care, which will have a significant further negative impact on those congregate care centers, like skilled nursing centers, that have any Medicaid populations. Nursing centers are already financially disadvantaged by Medicaid payment rates, and there's every indication that those payment rates will continue to experience pressure. There may be opportunities to negotiate with Medicaid managed care entities. However, I think that having gone through a cycle of Medicaid managed care in the past, I can tell you that Medicaid managed care is about squeezing resources, squeezing excesses out of the system. And while a value-based approach is appreciated, it's a very difficult sell. It's a very difficult sell to go to a Medicaid managed care contractor and to say that we can care for these highly complex consumers, aka patients, for $400 a day when the state Medicaid rate is $150 a day or $160 a day. Those Medicaid managed care providers would need to see hard data to show that the investment of the incremental difference between $160 a day and the $400 a day has a very positive net return on investment. There'll be continued pressure on utilization as options continue to flourish and as there are more choices available to consumers. We can look around in our marketplace areas and we can see a proliferation of home repair professionals who are offering stair lifts, grab bars, offer services going into people's homes and removing mobility barriers, and we will see more and more of that. The one hope, or the one bright light that I see in this, is that this pressure on the sector will cause leading edge and will prompt forward-thinking managers, executives, and sales and marketing professionals to look at efficiencies and productivity as a way of differentiating their operations, their centers from the competitors. These are indeed the facts of life as we see them evolving. And a reminder that the 4 pillars of proper and effective response to a declining market is, first of all, to defend, protect, and fortify the market share that you have, and that's done by managing to loyalty rather than managing to satisfaction, which means service error recovery. And service error recovery implies that there's a culture and climate within your organization that encourages errors to be brought to everyone's attention and that issues can be resolved. in a constructive way rather than sweeping them under the rug, on the rugs, regardless of whether it's a non-stick or a non-slip rug. The second step is to increase productivity and efficiency. It only stands to reason that in a declining market, there's pressure on payments as well, that it's critical to become progressively more productive and operate at higher levels of efficiency. These same initiatives that promulgate productivity and efficiency can indeed be seen in the marketplace area as innovations and as points of differentiation. This is the show on how to respond to a declining market. I've moved quickly through a number of topics, including the method of productivity improvement, efficiency improvement, and that's where I'd like to stop and see if we have questions. Robert? Well, I'm going to try to see if there are some questions here. Looks like we've got a nice group of attendees. Let's see if there are questions. Well, I must have...
Hi, Irving.
Yes.
Hi, some audio difficulties there. I wasn't able to connect. But yes, we have a question here. Given the new landscape of senior living, what kind of model of care would be most appropriate? For example, small boutique, higher end, something like a CCRC. Talk a little bit about that.
Certainly. The type of configuration is really driven by the demands in the market. So in the marketplace area. In a marketplace area such as Western Pennsylvania, the supply, the type of congregate care center is going to be profoundly different than it is in an inner urban area because of the nature of the population. So that first caveat. The second is that it's extremely difficult to change the configuration once the footprint is developed. It's very expensive to change the configuration of a care center. There's the tremendous reliance on existing population, so you don't want to throw people out while you reconfigure your building. So it's difficult to say how changes in the physical configuration can be undertaken. Finally, with regards to the first point that the question implied, there's a reason why small centers, small boutique centers haven't proliferated, and that's that it's very difficult to make the numbers work. The infrastructure costs, the staffing, the construction values associated with compliance with various state and federal requirements are so high that and the necessary return on investment is so high that it's very difficult to make those work, which is why for many, many years during the early boom in assisted living in the late 80s and early 90s, the typical model was a 70-unit assisted living residence. It's difficult to make the staffing numbers work below those unit size models.
Okay. Can you talk, Irving, a little bit in terms of best practices with respect to innovation?
Well, I can. I think there have been some very, very interesting models, and I will say quite clearly that there are very, very few nursing centers or assisted living residences that are doing this work. So The first innovation is around cost-based pricing. I first tried to develop a program for the California Assisted Living Association a number of years ago about cost-based pricing for assisted living residences, and it was mostly met with a people didn't understand what we were talking about then. I suspect that now this will become more integrated, more widely available and developed by my organization and a few others, but they're still very early in deployment. Right now, nursing or personal care staff, I'm still thinking about an assisted living residence, but it applies equally for skilled nursing center as well. Right now, staffing have to provide the care, then they have to go to some physical device, sometimes mounted on the wall, sometimes mounted on a rolling cart at a nurse's station, and occasionally at very innovative locations, carried around in a tablet or a smart device of some kind. And they have to enter their activity after the fact. And then this data gets looked at. It would be far more appropriate, and this is what Kroger's use, to have existing technology track exactly where not only Mrs. Stackpole and Mrs. Walker were at a given point in time during the day, during the week, and during the month, but to track how many times Mr. Jones interacted with Mrs. Stackpole and how many times Sally Parker interacted with Mrs. Stackpole, and actually counted that and added it up so that the actors, you could see not only how much of the resource individual clients were consuming, but also how efficient the individual actors were. As far as I know, there's nothing in the market that's currently doing that, although some of the listeners know of something, I'd be delighted to learn about. Did that answer the question?
I think so. You know what, Irving, I think that's it for now. Can you actually just post to the contact page for those who are interested?
Certainly.
And again, so thank you again, Irving, for that fascinating presentation. Again, Irving Stackpole, Stackpole and Associates. This webinar has been recorded, and we'll be sending it out in the next couple of days. Additionally, it will be available at youtube.com/retirementhome. So again, if you have any questions, obviously, please feel free to contact either Irving or myself. And other than that, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you all.